It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
We want to talk sports on a Thursday. We do, you do. From the Dixieline Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, where it's 104 degrees outside, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines, brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. 8 locations in San Diego to serve you, been in business for over 100 years. You got projects, they've got materials, you want ideas, they can be your best friend and your consultant. Go to Dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. Before we get started, a couple of business-related notes as we welcome my co-host, the founder of this podcast, the venerable, opinionated from left field, John Riley. He joins us inside rather than outside in 104-degree heat here in San Diego County. John, good afternoon. I'll ask you how you're doing, but I know the answer already because I'm the same way. How you doing?
Dude, you're coming in hot, man. Every day we could count on you with some opinions. There's a lot going on in the world of sports, and I'll tell you, those World Cup semis were fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to go a lot of different directions on this podcast. Item 1, we put topics on the table because we do sports talk the way it should be done. Lots of topics, lots of opinions. But then we added something else. It's called Fans Forum. And when we're done telling you what we think, we give you, the fans watching us on live stream, to jump on board. Go into the Fans Forum chat box. Want a question, want an answer, want a statement? Be specific about the topics that we're presenting to you on a day in, day out basis. We've gotten tremendous response. We want first-timers and long-distance watchers to join us. John, for all the new people on live stream, how does Fans Forum work? How do they get involved?
Okay. By the way, do you love it saying this right here? Saw needs a mic. I'm telling you, your mic isn't working right. So we got to fix that. Okay. So anyways, Fans Forum. If you got a question or comment in the world of sports or Hacksaw, drop your hot take in X, YouTube, or Facebook. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum. And yeah, do you love it is the first one on board.
Okay. Fans Forum coming up right at the end. Before we start, John and I are going to go one-on-one. Full disclosure, we have decided at this hour we're going to violate the journalistic rule, no cheering in the press box. We are going to cheer for the Padres to fix all things that are wrong between now and the trade deadline. John is wearing his historic Padre cap, and I am wearing my Padre shirt. I'm ready. You're ready. We're violating the first rule, no cheering from the press box. Today only, we're cheering from the press box. John, let me give you a couple of statistics here before we get started. And the fans are going to take over this segment real quick. The Padres are 48-48 as they start the back end, the back third, if you will, of the baseball schedule. It is shocking to me, this franchise, with this payroll in excess of $204 million, has a worse record at this hour than historically cheap Tampa Bay, low-spending Cleveland, the former 121-loss White Sox, the forever downcast Miami Marlins, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the rebuilt St. Louis Cardinals, and even the Arizona Diamondbacks in a weak division. The Padres have a worse record than any of those other teams who historically don't spend money on their roster, and the Padres are sitting there with a worse record than these teams. They would have to jump 6 different teams between now and the end of the season to be able to get a wild card playoff spot. So the shocker to me, John, hold on to the table so you don't fall over. Do you realize at this hour the Padres are closer to last place than they are to first place? How stunning is that with a star-studded lineup and with all those guys making all that money that this team is where it's at? John, wearing a Padre cap, cheering from left field as I do this with my Padre gear on. John, what do you think? Are you shocked at how bad it really is?
Yeah, I mean, we thought this was a playoff team. Certainly not, the top playoff team, but it was going to make the playoffs. And right now, it's just been this weird season of disappointments and, 1/3 or maybe even more of your starting roster hitting below the Mendoza line, and pitchers blowing out, and pitchers with huge ERAs, new manager, a lot of criticism of the manager. It's been a really rough go, Lee, and fans are kind of irritable right now.
Padres open a 10-game road trip at Kansas City Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then they go to Atlanta for 4 in a row against the really hot-hitting Braves. And they finish up with 3 at Miami. The Dodgers open their second part of the season at Yankee Stadium. What a matchup of the two legendary franchises tomorrow. The woebegone Angels will open the back half of their schedule against the Detroit Tigers. And if you look at the pennant races right now, Tampa Bay, despite a slump, has a 3-game lead over the Yankees. The Blight Sox and my Cleveland Indian, your Guardians, are tied for first place in the American League Central. Texas is hanging on for dear life, a game and a half ahead of suddenly hot Seattle. Over in the National League, Atlanta, with all those big bats, a 2-game lead over Philadelphia, which has really made a run under Don Mattingly. Milwaukee, they're +5 over the Cubs. The Cubs have been battered by injuries, and now Milwaukee has lost 3 starting pitchers within a week span. And, of course, out here in the West, all things Dodger Blue, 11.5 over Arizona, 12.5 over the underachieving San Diego Padres. We don't have a pennant race in the National League West. We obviously have 60-plus games to be played in all these other divisions. What stunned you the most about when you looked at the standings this morning, John?
It's just like, they're at 500, so don't you just sort of feel meh? It's like you tied a score, it's very discouraging. I frankly I'm not optimistic. I mean, even if the hitting, can come around and Machado and Tatis keep ramping up, this pitching is a shambles. And so I don't see how they're going to get out of this. And I worry that, AJ Preller might be toast here in a few months.
Well, they've got themselves this road trip coming up. The 10-game road trip is going to influence a lot of decisions going forward, and we're going to cover that. But everybody knows, because we've done this podcast for 4 years, everybody knows that we're baseball-centric. Everybody knows we have opinions, that whether you agree or disagree. But we're going to do something different on this first segment. We're going to take a step forward and hear from the fans on social media. John's big on social media. John spends half his life reading what other people post on social media. So we thought it would be unique to see if the fans are still faithful, if the fans still believe in the Friars, what the fans are thinking about what this team should do, or what the leadership has done. That's a lot of questions. John, your segment, social media, sounds off. Take it from here. What do you think? What do you see?
Okay, these are just some comments that I thought were worthy of sharing that are online right now. This is from Leisure Fryer, who's, by the way, a listener of this podcast. Hey, do you guys realize how ugly the Padres' future is? If this salary cap happens, we are fooked. Manny, Bogey, and Tatis taking almost half the cap into the 2030s. We're going to be the San Diego A's. Oh, well, maybe that's a good thing. What do you think of that, Hacksaw?
He's realistic. Leisure Fryer's a unbelievably passionate Padre fan. But at the end of the day, understand, because baseball's already said if we ever got to a salary cap, they would grandfather in the teams that are above the cap. I don't know what the formula would be, because that would be cap related. It'd also be related to deferred payments that are owed to players. And that would also involve the Dodgers, the Yankees, and a whole number of other teams. If there's a cap, and that's a big if, because I don't think we need a cap. What we need is the floor to spending and rules that force the ownership to spend more in the smaller markets. A bunch of the smaller markets, by the way, are beating the Padres in the standings right now, which to me is devastating and shocking. But in the overall picture, Leisure Fryer's response is correct. There's nothing wrong with paying the superstars what they paid them. To me, the catastrophic mistake was giving players 10, 12, and 14-year contracts that will stretch them beyond age 40 when you know for certain, aside from death, these guys' talents are going to erode. So therefore, the Padres are stuck with really extended contracts. I have no beef if you gave Manny Machado 5 years at $150 million. But to give him 10 years, to give Tatis 14, what they gave Darvish, what they've tied themselves down to at Xander, John, that's a big problem. Your response to Leisure Fryer, go ahead.
Yeah, Leisure Fryer, he's a good dude, by the way. But yeah, now keep in mind that if they do implement a salary cap, it's going to, well, not really a cap. Well, actually, they're talking about a cap, but we've talked about the luxury tax. But the first level of the luxury tax, where the taxes start kicking in, the salary cap that's being discussed should be a lot higher than that. So I don't know if Manny, Bogey, and Tatis will take up almost half. I mean, it's certainly a big chunk of it. But I don't know. I mean, Manny's coming back. Tatis should be okay. But Bogarts, I don't know about that guy.
Okay. You are allowed to be a fan as a co-host of this podcast.
I'm trying. It's hard to be a fan these days.
You're an emotional roller coaster. I mean, so Machado hits a few home runs. Dude's batting average is .203. Don't nominate him for the Hall of Fame in this atmosphere.
He's been playing better, and if he keeps ramping up, he'll finish on the same trajectory. He will finish at a spot that will be good. And if you see that from some of these other players, that they, quote, regress to the mean, meaning they sucked in the first half, and if they're really good in the second half, they finish the season around what their baseball card says, then they'll be in actually probably decent shape, assuming that they can plug all the holes, particularly in that starting rotation, which is a freaking disaster right now.
I didn't want to throw cold water in what you were about to say, but I was about to say, okay, so you're sales pitching me, go Manny, go Tatis, go Jackson Merrill, go Cronenworth. But I hate to throw cold water all over everything because with that pitching staff, no. With that rotation, hell no. So that's where we are. Okay, that's topic one, social media. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, let's go here to Jeremy. Hey, being a Padres fan is such a nightmare, dude. Like, how do we have C.J. Abrams and James Wood and trade them from Juan Soto and have none of them just 3 years later? Feels like someone's messing with us. How is that fair? MLB should have stepped in to stop Preller from ruining my life.
Well, I think there's validity to that, but at the end of the day, they built this thing with free agency and overpaid, made the product very good, then tried to add. I will say this on behalf of Preller and his people, the Chris Kemps of the world and the scouts, John. They know how to evaluate talent. They've found a lot of good guys they drafted. They went internationally, and they signed people who brought benefit to Padre baseball. But they've traded a ton of guys away. Preller has traded 60 prospects in 60 years. You look at the box scores of every other major league team, and there's somebody with San Diego background that's doing very well, and this team is 12 and a half games out of first place and on the brink of missing the playoffs. So in the big picture, they did what they did at the point they were trying to make the franchise really competitive, and they thought they'd take the next step to make it a World Series contender, had not gotten there. And I hate to say this because I know you've said it at the dining room table. I know I've said it to my wife. The credit card bill does come due. And I just fear the credit card bill has come due at Petco Park, the corner of Tony and Trevor. Agree or agree?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, like you say, the credit card does come due. I get you there. But the thing is that how should I say this? The trades, like, going all in on Soto, and then, you trade away a lot of the assets you got in the Soto deal and the whole thing. It was a lot of poker playing, and I like the aggressive nature. I like the idea of maybe taking some calculated risks to see if you can flip something to get some great ball players in here to make a run while you've got Machado, Tatis all at their peak. So the trades AJ made, I like. A lot of the free agent signings have been good. But to your point, those long-ass contracts are a huge problem. And remember even when Xander signed here, we all thought, okay, solid shortstop, should hit number 2 or number 5 hole, get a lot of doubles in the gap, not a big home run hitter, but should be a solid contributor. And you're like, 14 years, $280 million. It just seemed that Seidler sort of overpaid because they missed out on Aaron Judge and Trey Turner that offseason. So that deal has put us into a bind. So yeah, I don't. They're in trouble right now, but AJ's got to pull a rabbit out of his hat.
Okay, let's move to the next one. Social media.
To the next one.
Off.
Okay, so this is from Divine Sports Gospel, who's a Padre fan who's now kind of in the media, and he was responding to some guy here. Double B says, "Why hasn't Stammen told these guys no challenges in non-leverage situations in the first 4 innings? It's poor management. 2 outs, nobody on, and he challenges it. Just stupid." And they do it consistently. And then Divine Sports Gospel said, and there's a lot of people saying this, Stammen is not the right guy for the job. Nice guy though.
Well, end of the day, he's correct. Now, you don't want to put a lid on your batter or your catcher. But I don't know if this is a panic mode. I would swear, John, in the last 2 weeks, going into the All-Star break, they made more bad decisions on challenges early in games when it made absolutely no sense. So I think you need to put a lid on it. Now, Stammen can't control that from the dugout. If it's a bad call with men at second and third base in the second or third inning with the potential of a rally, yes. But you're down 0-2 in the first inning with nobody on and 2 outs, and you're challenging and losing, that's sheer stupidity. So take control of the dugout. I think Stammen is a little bit overwhelmed. I think his coaches are a little bit overwhelmed. That's just one of the glitches. John, the other glitches. You know how many guys have had thrown out on the bases trying to run on people on stolen bases, guys thrown out trying to go from second to third, guys thrown out trying to round third, come home and score? Mm-hmm. Boy, there's been a lot of bad decisions, and that to me comes from coaches. That to me comes from Stammen. And then you add into the fact this team is horrific at home plate, so that weighs in on the 11th different batting coach they've had during the A.J. Preller era. They got a lot of problems in that dugout with leadership, complicated by injuries. Bottom line, this whole thing, John, this is a real mess. And this is from someone today who's violating the first rule in journalism, no cheering in the press box. But here I am. But
you're not cheering. You're bitching and moaning, So, but, think about it this way. Like you're talking about leadership. Okay. The Padres were expecting Pivetta to be healthy most of the season. They were hopeful that Musgrove and Darvish were going to be capable of performing this year. There's been a problem with the pitching. There's been injuries. But yeah, the hitting's been awful. Steven Souza has been under fire by a lot of people in Padre Twitter. They're angry about him. Why did we sign him? Is he just Stammen's friend when they play together for the Nationals? So there's a lot of questions there. I know we've got a new third base coach, and he's been a little bit aggressive sending guys home. But the Padres are actually near the top in terms of stolen bases where they're actually safe. I mean, if you're not hitting, you got to take some calculated risks on the bases too. But right now it's trouble. The saving grace going into the second half of the season is that they're only at 500. They don't have to dig out of a hole. They just need to launch.
Yeah, but that's a cop-out. They'd have to vault 6 different teams.
Yeah, that's right.
To get to the wild card playoff spot. And you're presupposing we can do that. You're presupposing all these teams above you are going to lose all their games so the Padres can do that? No. I mean,
you were the king of the straw man argument, man. You argue against me on things I never said. So look, it's going to be hard. The roster, even Preller admitted it, the roster is not ideal. It's not set up correctly. It's got weaknesses in it. So, if they make the playoffs at this stage, right here at the beginning of the second half of the year, I would be thrilled. I mean, it would require them, in my opinion, to have to probably win 2/3 of the games down the stretch. And hopefully the people you're leapfrogging are only going to win a little over half or about half of them. So they've got to be red hot. They've got to go 40-20, over the last 60 games. That's a big ask. even if Manny and Merrill and Tatis and Bogarts, all those guys start hitting, you're still rolling out Giolito and Canning and all these other guys that, they're just going to get lit up. So the odds of them making it are unlikely. That's why I'm kind of hopeful that they are not going all in, for the trade deadline this year. I hope that they make some calculated decisions of a little bit of buying, a little bit of selling.
40-20. My co-host says they can do if they go 40-20.
Are you doing it again? I just said it was hard to do. I didn't say they were going to do it.
No, you said that has to happen, to which your co-host responds, dude, they're 18-30 in their last 48, and you're sales pitching me they need to go 40-20?
Damn it. You keep putting words in my mouth. Look, I just saying that's what the Padres need to do to qualify for the playoffs. They're going to have to win 2/3 of their remaining games. And the way this season is going, I don't have confidence they're going to do it, even if the hitters come back and become what they used to be, because the pitching is trash. The starting pitching is. So, yeah.
Just absolutely amazing. Social media has now become a divisive point on our podcast. You and I really disagree on sales pitches about this. Okay, let's move on. Next response.
Okay, this is this is from Brent Loves Padres and Huskies, and he's another big time poster on X, and he's really negative. You'd love him, Hacksaw. And so there's been a lot of rumors and conversation about potential deals to send Bogarts back to the Red Sox, because the Red Sox need help. And Brent says the Padres somehow trading Bogarts and letting Song play shortstop the rest of the year would make me buy lifetime season tickets.
At the end of the day, though, to get anybody to take any big contract means ownership and incoming ownership, John, would have to agree to pay a chunk of Bogey's contract to go back to Boston. I happen to like Bogarts. He's a streaky player, but he's really had an age substandard season. And by the way, as much as I think there's upside of potential to Sun Moon Song, the reality is dude is what? A 215, 220 hitter trying to learn as he goes against velocity. I just don't know that this is a good business transaction to eat half of Bogey's contract. And who you getting back, I just don't know that Boston, which, by the way, has won 9 in a row, and Boston's of the opinion they're in the wild card race. I don't know that Boston's going to become a seller at this point in time. John, do you realistically think eating a portion of anybody's contract is a good business decision for the Padres?
Well, it may be a good business decision, but it's certainly not the first thing that Jose Feliciano wants to do when he walks in the door. It's like, hey, by the way, I need you to eat about $150 million. I mean, that would suck. I mean, so, hopefully, he's willing to keep investing in the team. If we could even get a fraction of how good Seidler was from, helping out and really making, going for it. But at this stage, if Bogarts continues to decline, I'm just taking worst case scenario, if Merrill doesn't rebound back to his rookie season form, if Manny ends up flatlining, and if Tatis's power is gone, I don't know what you do with all those contracts. I mean, you don't have farm pieces. I mean, you could attach maybe like a Mason Miller to one of those deals, but then you're depleting your system of talent. I mean, the Padres have themselves backed into a corner here.
Credit card bill has come due. I agree. Okay, we go from that. Next one in this social media sound off segment.
Okay, this is another one from Snake Plissken. And get ready, everybody. He's about to do something stupid, and it's AJ Preller right there. Do you think he's going to do something crazy this trade deadline, Lee?
Well, my vote of confidence is based on their history and the success they've had with acquisitions. Now, he is bold. He's brazen. He has no fear. Now, I think he's been restrained by the current Seidler ownership since Peter's passing. I'd love to know what was said, because they have had conferences with the Feliciano family about the blueprint. Can we make this better? Can we salvage the season? I don't know what was told of him. John Seidler said business as normal. Well, what does business as normal mean now? Because Peter's not here. Does business as normal mean This is your budget. You've spent it. You got to live through it. Or does business as normal mean be aggressive, go out in the marketplace, and let's see what the next thing you do creatively is? End of the day, they're in a corner. And I don't know how they get out of this corner. And the other thing that we haven't talked about this, the other thing that further complicates anything A.J. Preller would do, half the world is in a wild card playoff hopes. Detroit, which looked like to be a traitor, is back in it. Boston's won 9 in a row. Miami is at a playoff team right now. So therefore, why would you trade away cornerstone pitching if you think you got a chance to be in postseason and start to make $1 billion per series profit if you went into the postseason as a wild card team? So suddenly I think the number of teams out there that you could make a deal with are much less now than they were, say, 3 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, when Detroit and Boston were off to miserable starts. Does that make sense, John?
It does. I mean, right now I'd say that since so many teams are sort of in it, there are going to be a lot more buyers. So the competition to get good talent is going to be tough. So it's just a matter of A.J. Preller says, is this the year that I want to double down? Or is this the year that maybe I just chill? You know, when all these other teams are hunting for players, now I can get great value if I'm a seller. So, you know, maybe I trade Morahone and Adam, or maybe I ask for the bank, you know, with Mason Miller. You know, maybe I just really take this as the year that I'm going to cash out, clear the deck, and then restart for next year.
Okay, let's move on. Hey, everybody's got an opinion. That's why we're letting the fans take over the first segment. Next item, social media, John.
From Samuel, he says, hey, this reminds me of the 2023 season where we could have traded Blake Snell and Josh Hader. Then they ended up leaving and signing a fat contract the next season. AJ needs to play it smart. Yeah, it might suck, but we need to rebuild for sure.
Well, he's indicating, I guess, if I read between the lines from Samuel, clear the decks, which means let's move marquee guys. Now, do you really help yourself if you move Mason Miller? Because that sends a bad message to season ticket holders. Do you really help yourself if you give up on Adrian Morejon when you've had a year and a half in which he finally evolved and became a really good setup guy, or maybe has the potential to be the next closer? Do you really help yourself if you have to swallow a huge chunk of Bogart's contract? Or you just say, we're going to move Jackson Merrill and hopefully get a lot of players back and let him go somewhere else to see if he can resuscitate his career. I don't know if those are good business model transactions. John?
Well, Morahone is on the final year of his deal, isn't he? I mean, this is the time to trade a guy like that if he's going to be a free agent in the offseason. And you know, high leverage relievers, especially lefties, you'll get a lot, you know, even if it's only for a 2-month rental, you'll still get quite a bit of value. So I think, you know, the Padres, and if there's opportunities to buy and maybe build your farm system, because I know the Padre farm system used to be dead friggin' last. Now they're up to like number 27 or 26, you know, after the draft. So if they just need to unload some of these veterans, rebuild, reload that farm system, it's not a bad move. And frankly, I think season ticket holders might be excited if there was a hope for the future and if they could see the strategy developing, because what's happening right now ain't working, and it's frustrating the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, I think franchise is drifting aimlessly right now for a wide variety of reasons, from injuries to mistakes to contracts to lack of farm system. It's just drifting. If Feliciano was approved the first week of August, hold a press conference and tell us what your thoughts are as to how you're going to maintain where this thing is, or whether it needs a restructure, whether you're going to rebuild, or you're going to wait till the off season and then make the transactions. But that has to come from the new ownership coming in the front door, not some generic statement from A.J. Preller. Well, I haven't given Craig Stammen the kind of roster that I hoped I would. So we'll see where it goes. Okay, John, let's do one more social media, and then we got other topics in baseball we want to get to.
There's so many. Okay, here's a positive comment, and this is from Dugout Dirt. And he goes, why I'm still bullish on the Padres. Manny Machado looks like vintage Manny over his last 30 games. Number 2, Fernando Tatis Jr.'s last 30 games, 274 average, 326 on base percentage, 452 slug, 4 homers, 16 RBI, 21 runs, 8 steals. There are 66 games left. If he holds pace, That's roughly a 280 average, 14 homers, 70 RBI, 90 runs, 41 steals. Considering his slow power start, finishing near 14 homers is a legitimate second-half rebound. Pair that Tatis trend with Machado's surge, and this offense could look very different after the break.
True, if, big if.
Yeah.
And still to be solved, how the hell are you going to get better pitching in here? Because to me, they need better starting pitching with the hope then the guys who've not hit very well are going to hit back to who they used to be. Does not happen real easy. I think those are really valid points. Okay, John, now that we don't like each other, I think this social media sound-off segment is kind of unique and kind of different. We let the fans, with their opinions, to take over. Now, we got other topics on the table. We're going to try to buzz through some other hot bullet items. Let's go from all things Padre baseball, because we're baseball-centric, and we want you to join us right now on Fans Forum. Get in line at the end of this show. We'll give you the chance to respond to what we just talked about. Let's talk about the Dodgers. And not so much first-place Dodgers, back end of the schedule, waiting on injured guys to get healthy, but the All-Star festivities. And Dave Roberts sounding off about MLB and his opinion that baseball needs to do something different as it relates to the makeup of the pitching staffs at the All-Star game. John, he's really concerned. He says he was forced to manage the National League team with a shorthanded pitching staff. He's proposing that they increase the number of pitchers in the All-Star game to 15. But he wants it mandated that if you are chosen, if you are selected, you need to appear and be ready to play, calling it an honor. Dave Roberts said, going into the All-Star festivities, 3 teams called him and demanded, asked, requested he not use their pitchers in the All-Star festivity. On top of that, 3 other guys forced to opt out, including his own ace, Shohei Ohtani. One guy refused to pitch after he was named as an alternate replacement. 3 other guys got injured. So Dave Roberts had a lot to say about the All-Star game. And by the way, the All-Star game ratings just came out. Home Run Derby ratings just came out. Lowest since 2003. So baseball's got a bit of an issue with Home Run Derby. Is it really a competitive thing? Is it good? Or is it just a jacked up thing to watch on TV? And what does baseball do as it relates to the pitching crisis these managers have to operate in and around? John, your turn.
The All-Star game used to mean something. It was the players took pride in representing the National League. That's why I thought, C-League was sort of onto something by giving the home field advantage to the side that wins the All-Star game. I know that's kind of a crazy idea, but trying to put some sort of, something in it, for this game to make it better. I mean, for me as a fan, the Home Run Derby is 1,000 times better than the All-Star game. The All-Star game, to me, the part that I love, that I won't miss, are the starting lineups, and when they go down the baseline and then they bring out the dudes of 1 through 9. And by the way, wasn't it a cool touch how they came out and signed the lineup card? Looked like signing the Declaration of Independence. I mean, there was a lot of really cool things in that All-Star game, that sandbox moment where all the kids came out on their bicycles. And I mean, Major League Baseball's tapping in to really good themes here about children and Americana and American history, all there in Philadelphia. But the game, I mean, the National League couldn't hit the damn ball. And after the first inning, there wasn't a whole lot going on other than, Miguel Vargas's home run. So, it's just like the game is sort of like it's just sort of like a dry rehearsal or something, so I don't know what they do to fix it. But I can understand why managers and pitching coaches are saying, hey, man, don't pitch my guy, because they want to give him rest.
Okay. You're invited to respond to Dave Roberts' concern about not having enough pitchers for the All-Star game. We go from that. Let's talk Angel baseball.
Yeah, new way of doing business with Mozeliak there.
John Mozeliak, Cardinals executive, now running the Angels in place of the fired Perry Manassian. Most interesting story is their farm director, Tim McIlvaine, spoke to the media about how different it felt at the baseball draft. Now, the Angels, under new leadership, new philosophy, new culture, drafted a ton of high school players. And Perry Manassian never did that. They force-fed college guys, tried to get into the big show to make the team competitive. And Tim McIlvaine said it felt so different in the meetings going up to the draft and what actually occurred in the draft. They drafted a bunch of high school pitchers. It just felt different. He was not condemning Manassian, but he said we were allowed to do our job the way we thought was very important. That's kind of a positive. Now, has not shown up, not going to show up immediately in the standings, in the one-loss record, etc. But, John, this guy in St. Louis had success. This, to me, seems to be a positive situation in terms of a different style of decision-making. You agree with that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the Angels need something, and it needs to start, really with front office people making the right choices. So I like this, and I like that there's a new man in town, and I think this is a great opportunity to start dealing some of those prospects or maybe some of those major league players and trying to get something back, because the roster as it's constructed is not the long-term solution.
Okay, just around the corner. Everybody's in the pennant race right now, or at least the wild card race just around the corner, John. We've got deals. Let me walk through with you in terms of trade rumors at this hour. I get so many freaking emails, it's unbelievable. It takes me forever to go through my emails. But I deal with agents and I deal with media guys in other markets. This is what I've been told. The Padres are talking to the Angels. The Padres are talking to Seattle, trying to configure what's the right guy to make a trade proposal for. They're interested in Reed Detmers of the Angels because they can afford him. The price tag to get him would not be obscene, would not have to give up any other top prospects. And they don't have a lot of blue chippers they could give up immediately. They're also talking to Seattle. And the story that broke in the early hours this morning, the Mariners are interested in one of the Padres' relief pitchers. Now, I'm led to believe that the Mariners would offer Luis Castillo, the veteran, who's pitched a little bit better since bad starts early in the year. Now, he's got a lot of miles on him. They're interested in Castillo. The price tag might be Jason Adam. The price tag might be Jeremiah Estrada. The price tag should not be Bradley Rodriguez. I was told Seattle has talked about all three of them for Luis Castillo. Now, if I were king, I would not trade Mason Miller. I would not trade Adrian Morejon. I might consider swapping out Campusano if I can get the right starting pitcher, either on a short-term rental or a guy that's going to be here for a while. I would not trade Salas. I would not trade any of the pitching at AA or Class A. So that's where the Padres are. This Angels-Seattle thing, I think, has probably got some legs to stand on. Second one is the Dodgers. Obviously, if the Dodgers want Tarek Skubal, the Dodgers can probably overpay to get Tarek Skubal. Dodgers have got 6 blue-chip players at AAA Oklahoma and at AA San Antonio. Burning question, which of the young outfielders do they get? They're going to have to pay to get Skubal because Skubal is obviously somebody's ace. Dodgers got another problem. This injury to Will Smith, the catcher, it's not healing. They've had to back him off all of his physical baseball-related activity after a month on the DL with what is being described to me as a pinched nerve in his neck. But it's not getting better. Now, granted, they do have Dalton Rushing, and he can play, and he can hit, but he's not Will Smith. So that's got to be a concern there. In terms of the Angels, they don't have a lot to trade, but evidently if they could get the right price tag, they would trade Jose Soriano or they would trade Reed Detmers. I don't believe the Angels' new leadership is going to sit and talk to Mike Trout about giving up his no-trade clause to make a transaction. So, John, what do you think the Padres should do? Quick comment on the Dodgers and the Angels.
Well, it's interesting because the Luis Castillo was like a Padre for like 10 minutes, but that all reversed on the Colin Ray deal to the Marlins. He'd be a good guy to get. I mean, but, if you're talking about Reed Detmers, I mean, that's like going out and signing Jake Arrieta. It's like you just need some more warm bodies to give you innings. And if that's the approach, then they're throwing in the towel for the year. If you get Luis Castillo, he's legit. I mean, he's not what he used to be, but he's still a very strong, a strong starter that you can rely on. And yeah, I mean, Morahone, if I believe he's going to be a free agent this offseason. Now is the time to move him. Maybe Jason Adam is someone they can move. I don't know how many more years of control they have on him. But the bullpen is where the Padres have a lot of depth. Now, dealing Campusano sounds interesting because his hitting's come around a lot more than it used to be a few years ago, and his catching's improved. But then you're back to Fermin and who's the other guy, Rodolfo Duran? Yep. I mean, that's a problem, and Ethan Salas isn't ready yet. So I don't know. I mean, right now, I think if the Padres, I'm with you. I don't think they need to trade away any of their talent in the minor leagues. I just think they need to, do some medium-sized deals, flip a reliever, that sort of thing. Dodgers are going to be fine. I know one of the guys in our fans forum said a number of weeks ago that Will Smith's injury could be season ending. And so apparently it's a pretty serious matter. But yeah, see like Dalton Rushing just slides right in, and they don't have like a 130 batting Freddie Fermin, that's going to, be bearing the load for the Dodgers. So the Dodgers are going to be fine, even if they don't get Skubal. And then the Angels, yeah. I mean, the Angels, the right thing to do is just to trade everybody and really go back to Mike Trout and just plead with the guy to say, look, we need to move you. And so hopefully you can get him to change his mind and literally hit the big fat reset button.
We know baseball. We are baseball centric. Your turn to jump on board. Get involved. Fans Forum chat box is open. John, we've got a lot of other topics we're going to try to buzz through before we get to the bottom of this hour. Let's talk World Cup soccer. I sat there mesmerized. I watched, and we're going to the finals on Sunday. Great headline you developed. Superstar versus rising star. That's what the final is going to be. Argentina versus Spain. We all know the accomplishments of Lionel Messi. You're about to see face-to-face the potential of the 19-year-old Yamal. I will tell you, it was just really, really impressive, the games we played. Let's start with Spain's win over France. Smothering defense. Unai Simon, 6th shutout in goal for the Spaniards. They've allowed 1 goal in all the World Cup games. They made Mbappe and Dembele disappear. Spain held the 2 French superstars without a shot for 66 minutes. And then they turn around and won with 2 of their other players scoring goals. Yamal is really scary. He's explosive, he's fast, he's shifty. Now, he scored early in the World Cup, but I'll tell you what, when he plays off that right side, he could beat your defender off the right side, and then you're in trouble. His future is very much ahead of him. He is a great player. Talk about Argentina versus England. Messi takes control of the game midway through the second half and sets up both the goals. One at the 85-minute mark, the other at the 91-minute mark. England tried to double Messi, and Messi still figured out their defense and led them to victory. What a dominant second half by the Argentinians. England scored after a really belligerent first half. There were 20 personal fouls and a bunch of yellow cards. Second half became soccer. England scored at the 55-minute mark and had the momentum. And then Thomas Tuchel, the English coach, made substitutions. He took out 3 of his veteran frontliners and put 3 extra defenders on the field, John. They went into defensive mode. And the final, it was shocking to me. They went into defensive shell. They put 9 guys in the box. They spent the last 50 minutes in their end of the field, allowing Argentina to take control and to fire shot after shot after shot. Jordan Pickford was just phenomenal, but there were just too many shots on goal against him. I thought Thomas Tuchel made just a catastrophic mistake when he had the lead, going into a defensive mode and subbing out the people he did. On we go to Sunday. This is going to be fun. All things Messi versus all things potential with Yamal. John, you watched any of this? What do you think?
this tournament is awesome. I mean, just everything about it is so great. And I mean, just even little things. I mean, like, look at those flags up on your big board there, and look at the geopolitical history, between France and Spain, between Argentina and England. I mean, and then, when these people from all over the world are coming together and celebrating it, and the whole world is literally hanging on a thread, especially if one of your teams is in the Final Four. So it's just been a great run. Now, the Spain-France game was interesting to me because I was expecting Mbappe and all of his guys to be like really high-powered offense. But it was, what I noticed is it was defense by Spain, but it was also just the way the midfield managed the game, because it just seemed like it was just, they were in control of the ball. They had the possession and really kept the ball away from France's stars. So, Thierry Henry, the broadcaster there in the pregame, postgame, he brought up a good point, how the Spanish players, they're taught how to function within a team, within that team environment, within that system, rather than being as individuals. They talk about, how the Spanish team is going to conduct business, and they bring up their young kids using the same system, and that paid off for them. Now, the Argentina-England game, I mean, once again, Argentina pulling a rabbit out of their hat right at the end. I mean, that was incredible. Tuchel, you could get on his case. We all know the prevent defense doesn't work in the NFL, and he did kind of go to the prevent defense early, but imagine if, is it Tuchel or Tuchel? If he had gone with what seems like fans are saying, gone with a regular offense and still try to attack on offense. If he had done that, then the defense wouldn't have been as strong. And if they gave up a goal, they would have been complaining. The fans have been complaining about that. But, England, they so badly want this. And, man, that thing slipped through their fingers in the last, 10 minutes of the total match. I mean, that was a thriller ending. And, yeah, Messi is, you talk about here, Messi, is probably the ultimate soccer player, the best player of all time, going into, he's the individual star for Argentina going against Spain, who has this sort of team first approach, where they've got a system and they got that midfield that's going to manage in the center of the pitch. I mean, this is going to be a great final, and I'm all in for Argentina because I'm a big fan of their president, Javier Milei. What do you think, Lee?
Bottom line, you got the star against the Spaniards' system. Right?
Yes.
Okay, that's all things World Cup. You got an opinion? You watch some soccer? The whole world's watching this. The U.S. TV ratings are through the roof. They're watching it too. Next topic as it relates to World Cup involves Team USA. So we're now a week plus out from the demise of Team USA and their ejection from the World Cup. They've had conversations again with Mauricio Pochettino, the coach. They've yet to be able to come to an agreement. He's not sure what he wants to do. His own players have gone public and said, we want him back. It is now being reported that Team USA has put together a hot list of candidates that they're willing to contact if Pochettino decides he's not coming back. Heading the group up is former Team USA player, former coach of LAFC, Steve Cherundolo. Guy's accomplished. Surprise name? Mikey Veras, head coach of our own SDFC. Now remember, they know him because Veras was formerly an assistant coach on the Team USA staff. And of course, Veras has done a lot internationally. Third name is BJ Callahan, former head coach Philadelphia Union with success, now head coach Nashville FC in MLS. And the fourth name is kind of unique. Former head coach of the English side, Gareth Southgate. End of the day, John, it just shocks me that Pochettino can't decide whether he wants to stay after seeing all the great progress he made. His own players have gone public and have said, we want him back. And yet he still continues to look abroad. So should he come back? Why wouldn't he come back? And secondly, if he doesn't come back, any of those hot names kind of interest you?
Lee, here's your hint. follow the money. Okay. He's going to be able to make a lot more money in Europe. It doesn't matter what league he's coaching in. He's going to, be an attractive candidate because he did a hell of a job for Team USA. And he got this team playing differently. And this team really looked good, especially in group play. I mean, the last game against Belgium was a disaster, but, you got to give props to Pochettino. So, but my guess is, and he even talked about it, how he was considering interviewing, I think one of the Liga A teams. Yeah, AC Milan. So, yeah, he's probably going to go. And you look at these names, and I remember Sherindolo from the national team. So that was nice to see his name. Mikey Veras is a bright young talent. I remember we talked a lot about him when he was first hired. I don't know the other two guys, but I think Team USA is going to be looking at a new head coach here, Lee. Okay.
We go from that to last topic on the table as it relates to soccer, SDFC. John, they're coming off a 7-week bye. Everybody in MLS schedule went into timeout during the World Cup. They come back to start the back half of their schedule with a losing record, 4-6-5. And they have a huge question for that guy, that general manager, Tyler Heaps. What are you going to do to solve the roster issue? They have yet to remove Chucky Lozano and his contract from the roster. It's been removed from the team. Lozano did not take part, was not chosen to play for Team Mexico, which had a great run in the World Cup. Where are you going to send him at his age? And what's it going to cost you to get rid of the contract? It's a big issue. In addition, they really need to find some people to play out on the edge, attackers, strikers, to complement the couple of stars that they have. So right now, it's a roster that's a little bit in flux. It's not what we had a year ago. A very disappointing second season after the brilliance of the first season. So Tyler Heaps has got to make the right transactions. And the fact that we've gone this deep into this season with Lozano not part of this team, but still there at the facility training on his own, makes no business sense to me. So I don't know if it's Heaps or it's Lozano, but Lozano's wrecking his career by not playing for someone else rather than thinking he's going to be brought back, because they say absolutely no way. What do you think?
I was so excited for this team last year. They had a great run, and they didn't get off to a good start, and I started to lose interest. And I don't want to lose interest in my local MLS team, but, with the World Cup going on and baseball starting and everything else, I got a little distracted. I'm anxious to get back into watching my MLS team. But the Chucky Lozano thing, I mean, I understand if you've got a player that is disruptive or, rubs everyone the wrong way or, is a guy that you need to get rid of. But you think that they would have waived him or done something to cut him loose. It's like you're keeping him there on a leash, at the workout facility. You're still paying the guy. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I know that we haven't gotten full disclosure on what upset Mikey Veras and what did Chucky Lozano do or say in the clubhouse, but it must have been really bad.
Yep, I concur with you. And they've got to fix this roster the second half of the season. You'd hate to think after last year's phenomenal debut, they might miss the playoffs. So they got work to get done. We are at halftime. We put a lot of topics on the table. We structured this show a little bit different today, coming after the All-Star break, to give you, the fans, a chance to get involved. We're going to the second half in a moment. Podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. John, they're known for lumber. Dixie Line is known for windows and doors. All right, it's 104 freaking degrees outside. Do you know, for the first time yesterday, I finally turned on my air conditioning because the doors and the windows in my home keep my house pretty cool. And I live in a hill, and we live in the valley. And at the end of the day, it gets bloody hot here like it is at your castle. Dixie Line is pretty good because of what they offer. Comments?
Yeah, they're one of the leaders in doors and windows here in San Diego County. And the great thing is many homeowners might have a bad window that's leaking. The cold air is coming in at night during the winter, or the AC is blowing outside, and causing a big wasted energy with SDG&E bills and everything else. The beauty of getting windows replaced by Dixie Line, as opposed to any of the other providers that are out there, is that they're a company that you can trust because they've been in San Diego for over 100 years, and they're not some fly-by-nighter entrepreneur that, just set up a doors and windows company last week, so you can trust them that they're going to do you right and they're going to do what's right for San Diego. And so, doors and windows, replacement doors, the sliding glass doors, we just showed in the preview video there, including the disappearing doors, the big doors from La Quintita and Anderson. And those doors are killer, Lee. I mean, if you have like one of those great homes along the coast and you want to really open up your house to the backyard patio, have some entertaining going on, those big doors at Dixieline are fantastic.
Doors, windows, in addition to lumber and their tool section. Just go to Dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. We are at halftime. This is a very unique and very different podcast. We do sports talk the way it should be done, topics on the table, and when we're done, you become a co-host. I don't care where you are. I know it's bloody hot where you are. Don't care what you're wearing. Jump on board. It's called Fans Forum, John. You created it. These are all your people. It's your responsibility. How do people join us right now on live stream so they can get in line to ask questions, make statements?
All right, Lee, enough of that. Okay, so look at these guys in here. I see Bill and Callan and Hit Me 619. Do you love it? The Atomic Punk is back. Teamer 20. Who else do I see? Sports Fan and John and Joseph and XX Revolution has chimed in. So a lot of our old friends, but some new guys in there too. So if you have a comment or question in the world of sports for Hacksaw, drop your hot take in the live chat on YouTube, on X, or on Facebook, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
And a reminder, I write about sports every day of the week on my website. That's the address right at the top of the screen. Have you checked it out? You should check it out, damn it. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. You get the best 15 minutes in sports. You get my one man's opinion column. In addition, there is an orange box right there on the homepage. Want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group, because then you will get on the email list. We send out 2 newsletters a day. Those of us who have already subscribed, do you like what we're doing? Tell us what you think. For those who have yet to subscribe, it's absolutely free. You get on the email list, fill it out. Just go to my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.
I want to say something, if you don't mind.
John, just feel free to interject, yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to break the rhythm for a minute, because we send out 2 emails a day, and you're thinking, oh my God, the last thing I need is to sign up on an email list with the guys that's going to send me 2 emails a day. But let me tell you, the content of this easy emails is like your morning sports paper, where you're going to get all the sports, the who won, who lost, the statistics, the hot topics in the world of sports. I mean, it's like literally Hacksaw's bullet sheet that he uses to do these live streams. And then he produces a column every day, 5 days a week, of what's going on in the world of sports. I mean, most guys in the media only do 1 column a week, maybe 2 a week. You're doing them every day. So it's really nice. It's like you have a morning newspaper and an afternoon newspaper. So check it out. Sign up for Hacksaw's Insiders Group.
You're correct. We are bleeping brilliant. Thank you. Okay, just a reminder, you can help us grow this thing. We've been together arguing with you, fighting with my co-host for 4 years. Want you to help us grow this thing. Share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Subscribe. When you subscribe, every time we put additional items up on the YouTube channel, you will get the alert. And, of course, you can help us grow this a great deal. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the follow button. And on Apple, give us a 5-star rating. It helps us grow this thing a great deal. And I want you part of my Twitter all-star team on social media. Join my team at X. Just type in Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, hit the follow button, or follow me at Hacksaw 1090. We're rocking and rolling, John. Let's go to the second half. We're going to buzz through this next set of topics because we do have a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah, a lot of NBA stuff. New developments with the Clippers, Lee.
We had expected this probe, the salary cap violations by the Clippers, the allegations with Kawhi Leonard to be completed. It's been reopened. Steve Ballmer was ordered back to Washington, D.C. to meet with the NBA legal firm that's doing the probe. We now find out that a second endorsement deal outside of his contract with the Clippers has surfaced, and information that Kawhi Leonard and his people asked for $17 million additional to cover legal funds from Steve Ballmer. This is pretty nasty. On top of the $50 million salary he was already getting, the $28 million sidebar deal he got from the bogus corporation Aspiration. Now this. Burning question, Ballmer ordered back for a second hearing before that legal firm just this past week. The burning question, was it Ballmer who was guilty? Was it Leonard who was guilty? And what is the end result? The league says this probe is going to continue on. The final report that was prepared has now been reopened. Not a good story. Reaction, John?
Reaction. I mean, Kawhi, you dog. You know, he's going for so much money. He's like going outside the boundary lines. This just feels to me so disappointing for Ballmer, you know, and what I thought of the guy, you know, and I like Kawhi too. I don't want to hear this, but what's the story on the trade to Toronto? Is that still in play, Lee?
It has been frozen by the NBA, but the NBA said Toronto and the Clippers made the decision not to finalize the trade only because they have no outcome on Leonard's status. Leonard's contract in LA could be voided, which would make him a street free agent. So why would you allow this trade to go through? At the same time, Leonard could get suspended by the league if they find out his fingerprints are all over all these demands and he tried to circumvent the salary cap through his uncle, Dennis Robertson. What's Toronto's risk? Well, Toronto's risk is they gave up 2 number 1s and 2 number 2s in Brandon Ingram. What if Leonard gets declared a free agent?
Yeah.
What if Leonard gets suspended by the league and there's no recourse for Toronto to get Brandon Ingram back? So this trade has been set aside. And at this point, we have no idea. And here we are in July when this final determination is going to be made. Who's the guilty party? Somebody's got blood on their hands for this. Somebody violated the salary cap. Is it Ballmer? Is it Kawhi Leonard? What's going to be the outcome? So the trade's been set to the side until they determine the guilty party and what sanctions have to come. Ugly, ugly story. Okay, we go from that. Lakers. Let's talk about this story.
Yeah, where's King James going to land, Lee?
Soap opera continues. LeBron James. We believe there are 6 offers out there. Some good, some not so good, some could be excellent. But at this point, he's yet to decide. Homecoming to Cleveland makes sense, but Cleveland has to move bodies off the roster to make cap space for LeBron James. The one that fascinates to me would be joining Joel Embiid, Maxey, and all those shooters with the Philadelphia 76ers. The third one is going back to Miami and playing for Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. Now, it's not a deep team, but LeBron could play, be a star, have big contributions. He and Giannis joining hands together in Miami. The unique one is Minnesota, which I think has got a ton of talent on the roster, but how does he fit? And there's only one basketball on the floor, him and Anthony Edwards. How do they share all that? The one that needs the most help is Denver. They've got firepower, they got talent, but boy, LeBron could be a big player going to Denver to team up with the Joker. And the one that I guess doesn't make sense would be linking up with the aged Steph Curry, the aging Draymond Green, and with a roster that's not very deep, although he'd play for a very respected coach in Steve Kerr. So this remains to be seen. By the way, sidebar story for the Lakers. The Lakers have dumped 6 players off the roster, led by DeAndre Ayton going to Washington. They've added 6 players, led by the big trade to get Walker Kessler from Utah. And they are still talking about deals. They're still talking sign and trade with Atlanta for Jonathan Kuminga. And they're talking about a Bronny James trade, possibly to Portland or possibly to Sacramento. So stay tuned for that. John, response about the purple and gold?
Who in the hell is going to trade for Bronny James? I mean, come on. I mean, that's ridiculous. Okay, so there's no way that LeBron is going to finish out his career in Minneapolis or Denver. I mean, that's just not going to happen. You know, so Philly, I could see that, you know, but going back to Miami probably would feel good. But to me, the whole Steph Curry, LeBron thing, and we've been hearing those 2 guys chirp about it for years. And so to me, that just feels like the right place. I mean, Cleveland would be the place to do it. But if that is not on the cards, then I think a Golden State would be must-see TV throughout the year as long as those guys are healthy. So, yeah, we'll see where he lands. I mean, how many years left in the tank do you think he really has, Lee?
I think he's kind of dropping hints. Farewell tour. I think he's got 1 year left. Okay. That's all things Lakers. You're an NBA fan? You tired of LeBron's act? I don't know. What does history write about the 8 years here in LA and 1 ring? Somebody join me on this Lakers line in the fans forum chat box. One other basketball item. I'm going to touch a nerve here, John. Let's talk all things Caitlin Clark and what the WNBA has turned out to be. She got injured again last night on another cheap shot. There is so much ill will being directed at Caitlin Clark. It's sad. It's sickening. It's wrong. John, she's had 6 injuries in 2 years. She got kicked in the quad while going down on the floor, and it sure looked intentional. This came a week after the cheap shot hit to her throat and a kick to her groin area in which she got injured. It's absolutely stunning to me how pitiful the leadership of the WNBA is in terms of disciplining players who are doing this to Caitlin Clark. It's shocking to me how incompetent the refereeing is that they allow all this flagrant stuff to go on. And to me, this sure smacks of racism. Virtually every one of the players that's been involved in a hard foul, a cheap shot foul, is African American doing this to Caitlin Clark. Why would you treat this star? Is it jealousy? Is it stupidity? Is it because of her personality? Is it because she's become the TV magnet that has led to the explosion of popularity of the league? To me, it's just awful. And I just hammer the leadership of the WNBA and its referees for not doing a better job preventing what I think are really violent acts on the floor perpetrated against this one specific player. Reaction?
You know, I've been following this story, and all of the explanations seem to be, and I just, it's hard for me to want to believe this, that there's a racial element and there's like a sexual orientation element that are sort of blended in here. And I'm like, what is going on? I mean, this is something that we should be evolving beyond. You know, we don't need to be having blacks against whites in the WNBA. This is just ridiculous. We've grown up. We've gotten past this. You know, so why would you be treating any player the way they treat her? You know, I saw that. I didn't see the fall last night, but I saw the one a week ago where she got the forearm shiver right to the throat, and that was serious. And we've seen all the other cheap shots she's been getting over the last couple of years. This is the golden goose. I mean, what the hell are you doing? I mean, if she went away, the numbers would drop and all their salaries would go in the tank. So I don't know. And by the way, have you noticed that the Indiana Fever have gotten a lot of television time, more so than any other team in the WNBA, but they're not winning. I mean, every time I look at the score, they're usually losing. So, there's a lot going on over there in the WNBA. I know that, who was the other player? Paige Beckers. I think she was going out of her way to pay homage to former black players in the WNBA and making a case that they should be coaches. I think, are the players mad at Caitlin Clark because she's not doing the same thing? It's just head scratching to me.
Well, Caitlin Clark went public this past week and defended the African-American players. Social media's attacks on the black players in the WNBA has been really harsh, and she said this is really unfair, that social media should not be attacking anybody in the WNBA, especially the other African-American stars on other teams, including the people who have been guilty of the cheap shot fouls against her. I mean, so she's got very vocal, but the hits have not stopped coming. And the WNBA leadership, led by their commissioner and by the referees, just seem to be turning their head, looking the other way, and not admonishing, and start suspending these people for flagrant fouls. It's just, to me, it's terribly unfair to her, and I think it besmirches the things that the league has become. You got an opinion? You watch the WNBA? How do you view what's happened to Caitlin Clark? Your responses invited. Fans Forum chat box. Final topics on the table. Let's blitz through this, John. Hot headlines. NHL. Wow. He went home. He was supposed to rescue the team, and now he's out. Stevie Yzerman, who came as a general manager of the Detroit Red Wings after success in Tampa Bay, has been removed. End of the deal. 10 years without making the playoffs, Detroit has really regressed as an organization. This comes on top of the problems with goaltending, on top of the problems with bad drafts, on top of the problems their captain, Dylan Larkin, doesn't want to play there anymore. Yzerman is gone. Waiting for the next big trade in the NHL, Vancouver has put underachieving goal scorer Elias Pettersson on the trade block. And there are reports, a lot of clubs didn't want to deal with the guy because he's making over $11 million per year and scoring 18 goals per season. It just doesn't seem to be the same player that he was early in his career. Nashville is interested. Pettersson for Jonathan Marchessault. Pettersson's just not the same player. Vancouver's got to get out from underneath the contract. North of the border, Canadian Football League, really sad note. Greatest defensive lineman in the history of the CFL, a small college guy who went north of the border, had an illustrious career, has passed away, Jim Corrigal. He played 13 years for the Toronto Argonauts, went into the Hall of Fame. He's a guy that came from Kent State, turned down a chance to go to the NFL, went to Canada, and stayed. Jim Corrigal's passed away at the age of 80. And speaking of the CFL, salute to a former San Diego Charger. Really interesting guy. Dennis McKnight, longtime starting guard, end of the Eric Coryell era, into the Super Bowl Chargers. Dennis McKnight went on to the Eagles, wound up starting for about 10 years in the NFL, went to Canada to become a coach. Dennis McKnight's just been hired as the special teams coach of the CFL Hamilton Ticats. Interesting guy. Golf. British Open. John, I don't know if you watched any of it today, but they've just completed the first round. Jackson Suber. Who? Jackson Suber survived the elements, high winds, unbelievably brown greens, fast track, 6 birds and an eagle, got to the clubhouse at Royal Birkdale at 5 under. Sonny Eam in second place, a stroke back at 4 under. Rory McIlroy just fought his way through adversity in the hunt. Robert McIntyre, Bryson DeChambeau, part of 9 different golfers that are 3 under. Scotty Scheffler roared out of the gate and hit a wall. He had 4 birdies in his first 6 holes, and then he went 9 holes in a row with pars and then a bogey. Scotty Scheffler is at 2 under. So that's the top of the leaderboard. At 1 under is Ty Hatton, John Rahm, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka are even. Ludwig Ahlberg is at 1 over. Wyndham Clark had a bad day at 3 above. Justin Rose, the very popular Englishman, is 5 over. Rory McIlroy wound up with 4 bogeys. He's at +2, along with Matt Fitzpatrick. So the big names didn't do really well, but Scheffler started fast and faded. Now, we got 3 more days. Who knows what the weather is going to be like tomorrow morning on the Irish Sea. So, John, that's a look at the British Open. And the last topic has to do with Formula One racing. We have covered over the last 2 years all things Max Verstappen. Happy, unhappy, it's their fault, never mine. He's not the driver he was. It's not the team they were. They've lost a whole bunch of front office executives. How about this story? Reported today by Reuters in Formula One, Red Bull is talking to Team McLaren about trading contracts. You take my driver, I'll take your driver. Neither one are happy. Reuters is reporting Red Bull is shopping Max Verstappen's contract to send him to Team McLaren for the young driving sensation Oscar Piastri in a swap of stars, or not real happy where they are. So, John, those are hot headlines. What do you think off the Sports Wire?
You know, it's funny. You just mentioned Team McLaren. I was just driving like yesterday, and a McLaren car passed me and then made a right turn at a light. How often do you see those? I mean, those are like pretty trick sports cars, yep. But you don't see them on the streets too often. You know, I want to talk about Dennis McKnight because he was a good dude. And I remember he was interviewed a lot in the local sports media. And there was a time, I don't know, I'm pretty sure this is true, that he and I think another player went in and bought a car wash here in Poway, back in the 90s, I think. So, it's good to see that he's having a career up in the CFL, but I don't know. One of the things I like about you, Lee, is that you follow the CFL and you often think about it not only in terms of the pride and everything it brings to the fans of Canada, but as a route for some of these players that are highly skilled, but maybe don't have the size or maybe aren't built right for the NFL. There's a great way to have a career up north, making less money, but still playing the game you love.
Well, I concur with you. I mean, I maintain a whole bunch of these quarterbacks who wind up on developmental squad and kept getting released every year should go to Canada and could be stars. But their agents want them, obviously, to get a payday, and they stay here and never get a chance to play and develop. You can go to Canada and become a superstar. And in terms of McKnight, I think the thing that attracted me to Dennis, and again, he's from New York. We were both born in Brooklyn. I mean, he's a self-made guy. He was undrafted out of Drake University and spent a decade as a starting guard in the NFL. He's a firebrand of a guy with a New York accent. He's just fun. And he's a unique guy to be in the media. When I was doing morning sports talk radio, Dennis occasionally was one of my co-hosts in a rotation we had of Hacksaw and Friends. Oh. Good guy, special teams coach. Was a little bit surprised he never got a chance to coach in the NFL as somebody's assistant, but he went to Canada, spent a ton of years with the Hamilton Ticats, got himself a CFL ring, and now just got hired to go to the BC Lions. So he's up there in Vancouver, but he's earned it. And everything he's done, he's earned it. And it hasn't been easy because to be a street free agent, to play a decade in the league and start as long as he did, hats off to him. And by the way, he's one of us. He lives right here on the border of Rancho Bernardo and Poway in the off season. So,
right on. Well, didn't he have long blonde hair?
No, he's got glazed hair now. He's got Andre.
Well, but back when he was playing, I seem to remember long blonde hair coming out the backside of the helmet. I don't know.
Now, it might have been a different guy, but no, he is what he is. You ever met him, you'd really enjoy him. He is loud and proud, but he's earned it. So congrats.
Good for him.
Okay. British Open golf. Waiting for the weather forecast for tomorrow because what was today might be very different tomorrow. I don't know who's going to win this thing.
Yeah, I'm just saying about Rory, I mean, obviously the fans love Rory McIlroy. And by the way, Rory, man, that's just a great Irish name, by the way. So, yeah, I want to see, some of those stars, achieve. I want to see them face brutal conditions, because that's what I love about the British Open is how it can just smack you upside the head. But, it's just the first round, Lee. I mean, we'll know a lot more, I think, after tomorrow. But I've been just so hooked on the World Cup. I haven't really gotten time to focus on golf. I got to get back to it this weekend. It's a major.
Hey, there's nothing on in the middle of the night on TV except British Open because of the time difference.
Yeah.
Jump on board. Okay. This has been a very unique podcast. We put a lot of unique topics on the table. We do sports talk the way it should be done. We tell you what we think, and then we open it up, and we let you take over the rest of the podcast with Fans Forum. Our podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. You got projects, they got materials, you want ideas. Go to Dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. John, I'm going to kick back and let the fans fire away at me and make opinions about you. As you'd say, they're piling in. I'd say, they're about ready to pile on. Go ahead. Fans Forum belongs to you. Here's the green flag.
People have good things to say, So let's go to Joe. Because our Padres only have a slim chance of the playoffs if both Tatis and Merrill end up hitting 20 or more homers for the season. But what are the odds of that happening?
Well, I think guys can hit their way back, but that would mean Manny Machado can't be sitting at the 203 Mendoza line the last 65 games of the season, and Merrill can't be hitting 218. So these guys have got to do something in the batting order. But the bigger issue is, what does A.J. Preller do to go add another starting pitcher? This rumor out of Anaheim, Reed Detmers has had a real decent bounce-back season. Soriano has had stretches where he's been really dominant. So the rumor out of Anaheim makes sense, and the rumor in Seattle makes sense depending which reliever you're willing to move. First of all, full disclosure, I'm not trading Mason Miller and Adrian Morejon. I don't care if Morion's a free agent. Resign the dude. I'm I'm not going to trade Bradley Rodriguez. I was led to believe that was the one that Seattle wanted, is they want Bradley Rodriguez for maybe Luis Castillo. Now, you're going to have to swallow a chunk of Castillo's contract, or maybe get Seattle to pay a piece of Castillo's contract, because it's still, I think there's $21 million this season. So you're still paying maybe a third of this contract going forward. Will the ownership, this group, or the one incoming ownership group, allow AJ to take on that amount? Because that amount also means there's a bigger luxury tax payment too. But so I think there's a lot of credence to Seattle and Anaheim in terms of trade talks.
Yeah, but let's be real. I mean, the Padres they're going to get way more leverage out of guys like Merrill and Tatis and Machado, all hitting the way we expect them to hit. And that's going to do way more for this team in terms of winning than maybe going out and getting a guy like Reed Detmers or even Luis Castillo. I mean, those guys could be incremental adds, but they're not going to get you from 500 into the playoffs. Ultimately, our stars need to be stars, and they ain't cutting it yet. The Tatis Machado showing some promise. What's your take, Lee, on Jackson Merrill? Why the regression? Did the league just figure him out? But why hasn't he responded and made adjustments?
He's been very inconsistent. I would assume injuries a year ago had something to do with it, but I think scouting reports and pitching have a lot to do with it. Teams will figure you out. I mean, what they've done to Jackson Merrill is no different than what they did to Jake Cronenworth, who at one point looked like a star in the making. And Jake is half the guy at bat than he was before. Merrill, because he got so dinged up a year ago, just doesn't seem to be the same guy in terms of plate discipline right now. But that may be scouting report and a variety of pitches that he's facing. And so, is he more of a student of the game? Maybe he needs to become more of a student of the game. And But at the same token, his aggressiveness on the bases, his ability to go chase down everything in the outfield, including things over the fence. I mean, this is still a really good young player, but he has now gone through a year and a half of substandard productivity in the batter's box.
Well, do you think that maybe that first year was a little bit of an illusion? Because I know when Jackson Merrill was coming up, he was highly touted and he was one of our top prospects, and he made the team maybe a little early than a lot of us thought he would. But that first year radically exceeded my expectations. And so now I wonder, am I thinking he's a better player than he really is? Is what we're seeing now kind of what Jackson Merrill was when he was coming up?
No, I think what we're seeing now is he's been figured out. So now it's like a chess match. They've got to solve the things that they're throwing at him that he goes and chases. Only time will tell as to what the next 60 games is going to be. I'm not trading him. Sorry, but that's where we are. Okay, next one.
Okay, we got some more Padre talk, and this one is with Callan. Hey, Saw, thoughts on the delay of the ownership sale and the rumor of the Buss brothers being linked to the new ownership group?
Well, the Buss brothers would come in as some type of minority owner. We're not talking about decision makers. That story broke, and then a day after the story broke out of the NBA circles, the Buss brothers had put in a bid to buy one of the franchises, the Rome, Italy franchise in the NBA European League. The Buss brothers don't have a big track record of being really quality NBA decision makers. They were kind of along for the ride as a family member. So coming in the door would be just as a small minority owner of the Padres, just to help the Feliciano family. They're not going to be living here being decision makers per se.
Okay, I just got a weird thought. Do you remember the Butt brothers?
No, please.
They were on 690 with you, weren't they?
Way back in the day, yeah. They were one of the myriad of different morning shows that we tried to make work, and they were unique and they were different and they were neat guys, but no traction whatsoever. But like I said, there were a whole bunch of teams that tried to make it in morning sports talk radio that kind of ran through our building and ran out the back door.
Yeah, no one could measure up to you, Lee. You know how it is. But I'm anxious for this thing to get concluded. I mean, it seems like, you say they're vetting all these other minority owners, and I get that they've got to vet them because you don't want to have an embarrassing moment or suddenly a financial problem down the road. But let's just wrap this thing up so we can get a clear vision of what the future strategy of this team is. Because right now they're like in purgatory.
Okay, we move on.
Okay, we move on. This is a good comment here from Bo Bello. He goes, the U.S. men's national team are equal to the Padres.
Underachieved. Yeah, plain and simple. But I'm disappointed in the men's national team. But that might be a one-off in a loss to a pretty good Belgium side that is globally ranked, whereas Team USA was ranked way down the board. But at the end of the day, we had such hopes for the men's soccer team, and they hit a wall. The national headlines, and we talked about it this past week, directed at Pulisic, have really been hostile. But it was a Belgium side that figured out what Team USA was doing and put a lid on it. And Team USA, after Pulisic went out with the injury, just never really captured any momentum whatsoever. Now, all these guys are eligible to come back in 2031. Pulisic will be 31 years of age, so there will be another opportunity for him to grow globally and come back and be maybe a different player. But the Balagans of the world and Gino Rea, all these other guys, they're all going to have the chance to come back and grow too. The one thing I think that they need to solve is there a stud goalkeeper they can have that they can develop? Maybe it'll be Matt Freese after the painful game against Belgium, but they don't have a Tim Howard, Brad Friedel type keeper between the posts. They still think they need to develop that type of athlete. And so I'm not going to say that Team USA underachieved. I just think they hit a wall once they get to the knockout round and they got beat by a pretty good side. And at the flip side of the Padres, I'm sorry, even though I'm wearing the shirt that Don and Mud gave me, hey, at the end of the day, Padres have underachieved again. And we have to hold people accountable for where this product is right now. And I think it's harder and harder to get this team out of the corner that A.J. Preller has kind of traded him into. John?
Do you ever get the sense now after watching Pulisic, we saw him in all the Gold Cup and CONCACAF and when he did play, and then we saw him in this tournament, and he's always been our Captain America, our guy that's going to win it all. And he just seems like kind of a little more delicate, and he gets, he hurts himself and he kicked that other guy's leg and it broke a few bones in his, I get it. He had an injury. But you compare him to a lot of the other world-class strikers that are in this tournament. They are bigger, they are stronger, they are faster, where Pulisic seems a little bit more like a small guy that's kind of a little bit more crafty. So it gives me a sense why maybe he never got traction with Chelsea. It gives me a sense why he had a really long scoreless streak with AC Milan. I mean, he's good, but he's not great, so we need to get even Belgium had a couple of those other guys that they looked like they could play tight end in the NFL. They had some big guys, we don't seem to have that up front for the U.S. men's national team.
I think you raise a very, very valid point. We see flashes of Pulisic controlling tempo, but I really think the next star is Balogun, because I think full Balogun, who played at Monaco and is going to sign a contract somewhere else this summer, Balogun is explosive, crafty, and quicker. I see Balogun as maybe the leader going forward just because of his athleticism. And then you add into the equation the flashes of athleticism we saw from Malik Tillman, and Sergio Denst. So I think there's other components here aside from Pulisic. I don't think Pulisic is the athlete. Now, maybe Pulisic can become the Harry Kane, but Balogun, I think, is the athletic prototype that we need to go find more of those guys who can run and score and make plays.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the whole topic of how American athletes don't gravitate to soccer as number one. They're playing football, basketball, baseball, hockey. Those usually all seem to come before football or soccer in the United States. So that's part of it. But yeah, is it Balogun or Balogun? I do hope that he becomes, our dude going forward. He's a lot younger than Pulisic. So, in the end, USA is just that you can just tell they're not the same caliber of a squad. And by the way, I wanted to ask you just a little tangent on the World Cup. What's your take on this Bellingham guy, from England, taking a cheap shot at some of the Argentinian players after that game? He kind of smacked some guy on the backside of the head.
Well, he was getting cheap shot of the whole game. I mean, 2 minutes into the game, I thought Argentina committed so many fouls early. I kept wondering, where's the yellow cards? There were 20 fouls in the first half, and Bellingham was the recipient of a whole bunch of things that put him on the ground. And I thought there was an awful lot of intimidation going on, and the officiating did virtually nothing in the first 30 minutes. And then they started handing out yellow cards at the back end of the first half. He's a passionate player. He's really developed. I mean, obviously, Harry Kane is a superstar, but Bellingham, who was force-fed last time in the World Cup, I thought really played well, scored some really critical goals, but there's no doubt that he was targeted by Argentina. And I thought he was victimized by the officiating. So he had a right to walk around pissed off about that whole situation, about the fouls that were not called, etc. But again, your star, you become the magnet for defenses. Just ask Christian Pulisic about how he was defended, how he was treated. Bellingham, I think, was the same way. Okay, next one, John.
Next one. Okay, this is a fun one from a new guy, Johnny Owen. Hey, did Kareem Abdul-Jabbar bump his head? He called Caitlin Clark's supporters racist, and he also said she wasn't a great player.
I don't think she's a complete player, but her ability to hit shots, her ability to make razor-sharp passes, she's pretty impressive. Now, she may not be a great defensive player, but her persona has elevated the WNBA's popularity. So at the end of the day, I'm really bothered that all the stuff that's happening to her just seems to be racially motivated. Maybe somebody doesn't agree with that. Now, she's not said that, and she's defended the African-American players who've cheap-shotted her and gone to their defense and said social media needs to quit making threats against the players in Chicago and the players in New York and et cetera who have hurt her. But at the end of the day, the leadership of the WNBA, I think, is sad, and I think the officiating, to me, is substandard. Every player deserves to be protected when somebody takes cheap shots, and I don't see that with Caitlin Clark at all. John, 6 injuries in a year and a half, virtually every one of them cheap shots.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, this is, like I said earlier, the golden goose, and you don't screw around with that. And why in the hell are we creating a race war in women's basketball? I mean, come on, let's evolve. But, by the way, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, let's talk about him for a minute. He's a smart guy. I mean, he's a very intelligent, cerebral dude. Politically, he's quite left. I know he's very active within the Democratic Party. So I could see, trying to see it through a racial angle. But it is, I mean, let's be real. I mean, a lot of times we gravitate to root for players that sort of look like you, I mean, that's almost like a natural human condition. Does that make people racist? I don't think so. But, when Caitlin Clark shows up at an arena, there's a lot of white fans in the stands. I don't think that's racist. I just think that she attracts a big audience, So I don't know. I just don't get all the hate.
I concur, especially from the people who played well in the league and are making a lot of money because of her impact and what has made the league a very different business venture now than it was ever before historically. Okay, we move on. Let me see if I can pick out a good one here. So more Padre talk, and this was with our buddy John. Hey, at this point, do we really want AJ to make some acquisitions and rent some more talent that will ultimately make the new GM's job even harder to rebuild this team? They should replace the swinging friar with a picture of Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla, the king of the deferred contracts that everybody else.
He's still getting paid.
Yeah, well, one more year, and that'll be the extent of that. I mentioned this on the podcast on Monday. The Padres went and drafted another high school pitcher. They now have 4 legitimate, highly regarded young pitchers, all from the high school ranks, in their organization. I am wondering if the meetings with the incoming ownership, the Feliciano people, the message was delivered to A.J. Preller. You need to build this through the draft, and then we'll spend money on a select group of free agents, because they've really kind of come out of the context of the way they've operated and gone pitcher, high school ranks. So maybe things are changing behind the curtain after meetings with the incoming owners. Not to say the owners won't give them money to go get free agents, but they want it done differently. They want to base the success of Padre baseball. And at this point, they have solace and they've got one or two young outfielders, and they've got four legitimate stud pitchers. Now, none of them are ready for Major League Baseball, close to being ready, but at least you've drafted guys with legitimate strength on the mound. So maybe things are changing there. I'm not in favor of overpaying. I'm in favor of using maybe something unique that we have, an extra item to go get a rental that might make a difference. You know, Luis Castillo has pitched better in Seattle the last month and a half than he pitched the first third of the season when he looked like he was an old man. Soriano pitched blazing out of the gate. Now he's hit a rough patch with the Angels. Detmer's had a bounce-back season since they put him into the rotation. If you can get one of those guys to become your trustworthy second or third starter in the rotation, that helps stop the bleeding. I don't know what to tell you about Buehler. Again, I violated the clause, no cheering in the press box, because I want Buehler to succeed because he's gone through such bad adversity. And we had that stretch. He had 4 or 5 starts in a row. He was dominant. Now he's had some really bad starts in a row. So he's not home. He's not home clear. I have no idea where Pivetta is as to whether he can pitch in August and whether he'll be able to hold up and pitch in August, or does this become chronic? I feel bad. Musgrove has given baseball 10 years, but there's only so many bullets in the arm, and you got a stress fracture in your elbow. That's not good. And I don't care how many injections you have. He's tried everything humanly possible. We just don't know. So they're woefully short. So if they could acquire a plug-in number 3 starter without giving up the house, maybe that's the best way to go, with the hope that the other piece of the equation, all these other guys in his batting order are going to start to hit. But boy, this, 12 and a half games out of first place is a long way to run uphill because you got a ton of people in front of you. Does that make any sense?
Well, first of all, let's just don't worry about the 12 and a half games out of first place. This is not a race to win the NL West. This is just a race to get into playoff contention. And I think they're only 3.5 games out of the last wild card slot. So this is achievable, even if you've got 4 or 5 teams ahead of you. I mean, we still have 2 months, actually 2.5 months. So if everything goes your way, which is a huge, huge if, it's achievable, but the likelihood of it happening is not necessarily achievable. That's why I think AJ needs to be more of a seller than a buyer. And I think unloading some of that, bullpen depth could get him some good things in return. But it's interesting that you talked about the strategy of the high school pitcher. And I'm thinking about, Mackenzie Gore and Ryan Weathers. Gore never really turned out to be what everyone thought, but Weathers isn't he with the Yankees? He's actually having a nice run.
Not so much now. He's given up a lot of home runs. I think Gore pitched as competitively as he could in Washington in the midst of their rebuild. Now, he's in Texas, but he's had some health issues, but that just might be overuse. I still think there's lots of good innings left with Mackenzie Gore. Weathers has been all over the place. I don't know what to make of Ryan Weathers, but all I know is they got, as you'd say, 2.5 months. They got to make the right deal, but a what price tag, and how do they do it? And then the other side of the dollar bill, are these bats going to hit? Are these bats going to be what these bats used to be? Don't know. We'll see. Okay, we move on.
I love the Bobby Bonilla reference right there. It's perfect. Okay, this is a good one. This is from Teamer. Padre fans complaining when I'd rather be in their shoes than what we have with the Angels. You have an owner that doesn't want to spend, and he's admitted he doesn't care about winning. He needs to sell the team, Lee.
Read my one man's opinion column that I wrote yesterday about what the Padres, what the Dodgers, what the Angels should do. John Mozeliak has conducted now a very different draft than Perry Manassian did. The second thing is John Mozeliak was hired to tell Artie Moreno how to fix this franchise. John Mozeliak needs to go back to Artie Moreno and say, you need to give me back the $55 million of payroll that you took away this past year. I understand the loss of the TV contracts, etc., and that's the rationale for what you did. You need to give me that money back so I can go sign international free agents, so I can go into free agency and see if I can find the right veteran guy. That is what Mozeliak was brought in here to tell the owner what needs to be done. Tell the owner what needs to be done. Send me a thank you note when it's accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is that Artie Moreno hired the guy. Okay. I mean, if he had gotten another guy we had never heard of or from some weak organization, we would have said typical Artie. So at least there's hope. Okay. But yeah, he's going to have to make some big decisions here. And even if you keep Mike Trout, I mean, who's the number 2 man in the payroll stack ranking for the Angels?
It's hardly anybody. I mean, their budget, I think their payroll is $155 million. It used to be over $200 million, and Artie subtracted that money because of the loss of the TV contract. They got money to use. There's no doubt they're paying Chanel and Nito and old Hoppy. But
are they still spending money on Anthony Rendon?
Yeah, this is they owe him 3 years, $37 million per season, and he gave them a break this year. There might be deferred payments somewhere down the road. I don't think he's given the money
disaster.
Back. Exactly, but that was bad luck because he had never had an injury history in Washington, and here they are. So I feel for Angel fan, but you got a man with baseball track record and a good resume to try to lead them out of this wilderness. It's going to be 12 years since they won a playoff game. 12 years by the time we get to the end of the season, and this kind of looks like another 100-loss season. Okay, John, let's move on.
Moving on. Okay, I love this guy's handle. I like to get him in, but this is kind of a crap post. The Atomic Punk, he says, the reason the Padres have the worst record in baseball is because their team is full of me, myself, and I's. Full stop. The biggest offender is Machado.
Well, he's different. I agree with you. I've been in that clubhouse a long time, talking to all those guys, and I've seen good clubhouses and I've seen bad clubhouses with the Padres. I don't like this clubhouse per se. I really dislike this clubhouse when Soto was here and a whole bunch of other guys. Can it be fixed? Yeah. Manny's about Manny's productivity. But he's been a solid ball player. But now he's not the solid ball player, not a complete ball player any longer, and yet he's still got this attitude. At the end of the day, they just need more people around him. I don't know how they get to this point in time. Nice link there. If somebody was to send you a mail through the postal service, would they just use the word "a punk" with your home address next to it?
Well, I don't know if you get the reference, Lee, but this is a song by Van Halen. Okay. The Atomic Punk. So that's why I like his handle. But this is a Dodger fan. I mean, let's be clear. This is a Dodger fan, and he's popping off. He's trying to kick dirt on the Padres. But they got rid of what's his name, Juan Soto. I mean, you've always called him Mr. Me, Myself, and I.
Sure.
And Machado, he's accused of being a villain more so than he really deserves. I know when he took out Dustin Pedroia, that was bad. I know he stepped on the Achilles of one of those Brewers first basemen. I mean, he's had moments where he hasn't been well behaved, but the reaction to Machado in every stadium he goes to, it's like he's one of the villains on the old 1960s campy Batman TV. It's like, boo, Machado, and he's a family man, and he's making a commitment to San Diego. He's even a part owner of the San Diego FC. So I don't know. To me, this is more smack talking than any kind of a legit comment, Lee.
Well, the only thing I could say is, though, he's created this image going all the way back to his days in Baltimore through Dodger Stadium. And, and he's hurt himself with some of the things he said. I mean, his statement, I don't have to be Johnny Hustle. And his statement to me, look at the back of my baseball card.
But do you know what he meant by that? I mean, really? What do you think he meant by I'm not going to be Johnny Hustle?
He doesn't have to run out every ground ball. He doesn't have to play hard all the time.
Now, I think what he was trying to say is that he's not going to be the guy like, remember Eric Owens, that we had like 20 years ago? Little David Eckstein that's going to really, run everything out and be super aggressive with a big smile. He's saying he's not going to be that overachiever guy, He's not saying that he's, he does jog to first, but it's usually when everybody and their grandmother know that he's going to be thrown out no matter what. So I don't know. That just seems trivial. I mean, they should be getting on his case about, the hitting this year. That's legit. That's a legit problem. But I think the personal attacks on him they're disproportionate to who he is.
Well, I think he's a hell of a ball player. He's had a tremendous career. Now he might be
Yeah.
he might be a little bit older, 31-year-old now than anybody realized because he's played so much and he's played through injuries, etc. So we'll see what happens the last 60 games of the season. But when you're making that kind of bank, John, you need to show up and you need to play hard all the time without explanation and excuses.
Well, you know what? I mean, Juan Soto does that lame-ass jog to first base on routine grounders. And I think, didn't Bogarts just do that a few nights ago? And it was near the end of the game when we were only down by 1 and fans are getting on his case. So maybe it is infecting the clubhouse. That's not good news.
Okay, we move on.
Okay, there's a lot of Padre talk today. This is from Sports Fan. Hi, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Do you think that the San Diego Padres clean house, starting with Craig Stammen?
No, I don't think that they're going to hold Stammen accountable. If anybody's to be held accountable, it's the guy that put this roster together. And I don't think he's going to be in jeopardy. It'll be very interesting to see once the Feliciano family takes over operation, what the relationship is like. Does the blueprint change at all? There'll be a period in which they adjust to each other. This is a roster thing. This is an injury thing. This is lack of farm system thing. This is the contract extensions. Now, a lot of that obviously goes to the front door of the general manager, AJ Preller. But I'm not firing Craig Stammen at this point in time. He needs more players, but AJ has to be held accountable for the makeup of this roster. So I don't think anybody's in jeopardy at this point in time. They just have to find a way to get more talent in here for another year. If a year from now we're still in the same situation, then I think everything's probably going to change. But at this point, I wouldn't consider that at all.
I mean, imagine you hire a manager and you fire him 3 or 4 months later. I mean, no team is going to do that, to admit failure right out of the box like that. Now, Stammen, to me, is a guy that's trustworthy by, the team, his players trust him. He's, a solid guy, a good character, but he's not like an Earl Weaver that's going to get out there and get in everyone's, case and get in your face yelling at you. He's not going to really get into a brawl with an umpire. He's not a firebrand like that. So I always get the sense that, I think you mentioned this term before. He's like a company man, he's part of the Preller, front office staff that all speak from they all drink water from the same drinking fountain. They speak the same language, and which is a good thing, I guess, from an organizational perspective. But I don't see in Stammen a man that is, can you remember who was the coach of the Pirates back in the day? Remember he used to smoke in the dugout? Jim Leland. You remember that? Have you seen that video clip of him just ripping into Barry Bonds like it's spring training for the Pirates? I can never see Stammen doing anything like that.
No, but I think managers, as they learn, they grow and they'll take on their own set of values, etc. It's just too early in the process to make that determination, considering what he's been given to put on the field. I will say this, though. Speaking of managers, how many different managers have we gone through since A.J. Preller came here and fired Bud Black? 6 or 7? I mean, yeah. A.J.'s track record of making determinations as to who the leader should be, that's not very good. And it's odd because I remember texting him the night they hired Bob Melvin, and I thought that was a pretty good hire. And that was kind of 2 years of up and down. And then obviously they hired a baseball lifer, and there's no doubt that guy who came from the Cardinals had a pretty good track record. And of course, we had the 3 90-win seasons here, and then he walked away from it because he burned out, or Preller let him walk away, or they couldn't coexist and he walked away. So AJ's hiring of managers hasn't been very good, starting from Bud Black's firing through Andy Green, Jace Tingler, etc. Has it?
Yeah, but yeah. Plus, I mean, you could even add Dave Roberts. I think he was the manager for 1 game, and who's the guy that's the manager of the Brewers now? I mean, he was the Padres manager for a few months after Bud Black got fired, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, there's been like 6 or 7 guys. I mean, Craig Stammen. Yeah, he's a likable fella. I just don't know if he's the man for the job.
Okay, we'll leave it at that because we'll have a lot more time to talk about that as we find out what the last 60-plus games of the season is all about. John, how about a couple more here before we put a lid on it?
All right, here, Mr. Sergio Q. Hey, Typical's Clippers organization.
I'm intrigued to know what the second set of violations that this legal firm has uncovered involving Kawhi Leonard involve. Because now there's a report, it's more than the $28 million and the 20% stock ownership that he was given at aspiration, that there's a second side deal with a different company. And there's also a report, and I don't know if it came from a whistleblower or how they came upon the information, that Kawhi Leonard asked for $17 million in legal fees from the owner. This is all beyond the salary cap and the $50 million salary. Now, you haven't said it, but I'll say it. I look at Kawhi Leonard right now in a very different lens.
Oh, yeah.
Set aside the greatness of the Aztec basketball player. I question who this person is, what he represents, and why he and his people, because they're the trigger points for all this, have acted the way they have, to the point he's putting this whole franchise in jeopardy based on either the deals that they did outside the window without the knowledge of the Clippers, or the deal they may have done with the Clippers' help. The NBA has a history of coming down with both feet on anybody that violates the salary cap. So we'll just have to see what the depths of this second set of allegations that just surfaced, what happens there. To me, it doesn't look good. But I'm like you, John. I'm shocked that Ballmer would be involved in anything illegal.
Yeah.
I have a hard time understanding that. Other owners, other stupid people, yes. And if you want to find out what the NBA did to the last team that violated the salary cap, you just Google Minnesota Timberwolves salary cap violations, and you'll be stunned at what that owner, Glenn Taylor, got himself involved in and the penalties they wound up having to pay. Same thing could happen to the Clippers, but also Kawhi is, I think, at great risk. They could terminate this $50 million last year contract and put him on the street with no contract at all, which would kill the Clippers and it would really impact his career. And now I look at Kawhi in a very different lens now than I used to. That's too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad. Let's keep moving. Let's go here to Carlos. I like the Lakers' new roster construction. Stephen A. Smith says the roster is too white and it's not going to win. I disagree, but would like to add a tough guy on defense, a thug like Shaq said.
Stephen A. all the time. Say anything to get a response. Stephen A. Anything. Pass on that comment. Roster's very different. See, I have a very different angle to this. I wish LeBron had stayed. If you had LeBron or Luka, the Walker-Kessler trade, plus Austin Reeves, plus Cam Carr, the number one pick, who obviously looks like he can play. He's had three really explosive games in the Summer League. Suddenly, that's a very different roster. Now, Kessler has got this square box. This is what he does best. You have to play with that. But play with that means rebounds. Play with that means passing the ball, etc. And he can occasionally score. So they're better in the paint now than they've been in a while, but they're not going to be the same because LeBron's firepower is now not part of the equation. And if LeBron had just waited and let the Lakers make the deal they want to get Kessler, then LeBron could have re-signed for whatever the mid-level exemption was. But instead, he opted out. Maybe they decided they were not going to re-sign him and let him leave early. So he's going to wind up somewhere else. I think they would have been a much more complete team if LeBron had been part of the franchise after the acquisition of Kessler. And, of course, they've signed a bunch of fringe guys who are three-point shooters. I like Colin Sexton, ex-Cavalier. He can stroke it. So I'll be intrigued to see what this chemistry is like. But Stephen A's comment, push that off to the side, doesn't mean anything. Go ahead, John. You're laughing. You don't agree with me.
No, I'm laughing at you because you're the one that's usually spouting off with comments. Yap, yap, yap. That's Hacksaw. So anyways, I don't like making things racist unnecessarily. And that's part of what I'm upset about the Caitlin Clark thing too. But yeah, it's the Lakers, it's going to a whole new world. I never really thought King James, he was done in LA. Let's go to Bill Bernard. He's got some LeBron comment too. He goes, James was never a career Laker. That said, he's not going to a cold weather climate, and he's not going to the Western Conference where he knows he can't win.
Well, Philadelphia to me would be phenomenal. Maybe relinking with Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra in Miami would seem like a fit. Minnesota to me is a strange package, only because they got so many players and there's only one basketball on the floor at a time. Going home to Cleveland makes a lot of sense, but Cavaliers have such money issues. I mean, you bring LeBron in and you have to get rid of Evan Mobley, or you bring King James in, you got to get rid of Jalen Allen because of salary cap. That really becomes a problem set of circumstances. And, of course, Bronny to Sacramento, Bronny to Portland. We'll see where Bronny winds up because he's probably going to exit too. So,
hey, one more, Lee. One more. A quickie to music to my ears. Thank you for the donation. Rory McIlroy hit a drive 415 yards into the green of number 9 Royal Birkdale. You getting up to watch the Open?
Time for me to get up early and watch a little British Open because I've been like John. I've been so overwhelmed with the uniqueness of the World Cup. Rory had 4 bogeys early and then rallied. And I don't know what to make of Rory's game right now because McIlroy, he's picking and choosing. He's not playing on a regular basis. He's only picking the major events. This is only the 10th tournament that he's played in all year. And again, he's got every right to pick and choose and take time off, etc. But coming off the Masters, I thought he would have set sail to try to dominate this thing. But golf is a grind. I mean, ask Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Scheffler has not won in 13 straight weeks on the tour. And this guy owned the tour for the last 2+ years. So it'd just be interesting going forward. Hey, listen, we hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. We do this differently. Today was one of the best podcasts we ever had because we added the whole social media concept. Maybe we'll wind up doing this again. Hope you've enjoyed it. Just a couple of reminders. Check my website. Check my website, damn it. You'll love what I write. And I want you to subscribe. Get on the email list so you can get the 2 sports newsletters that we send out every day. I want you to help us grow this thing. Hit the follow button. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating also on Apple. We're going to be back here on Monday at 1:30 to cover all this all over again. John, take a deep breath. You did a great job, even though we violated the first rule, no cheering from the press box today.
All good, Lee, man. All right, go Argentina in the final.
Have yourself a great sports weekend. We will see you come Monday on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.